back and I have an interesting story about that truck, the old Kenworth. Gonna get him loaded. Welcome back. I figured I would tell you guys the story of the old blue Kenworth. The old blue Kenworth was the truck that Jimmy just left with, that we just got done loading. That truck, when I got here, was like the ultimate truck. I mean, we're talking 11, 12 years ago. That truck was like real nice. And the guy running it took care of it really well. And even my first day here, that was the first truck to come to landing. We had about a foot of snow, and a lot of the drivers didn't want to drive, but old Carl did. So anyways, that truck, yeah, we got into a situation one time. Back then, we just had this little chipper here. We didn't have the big chipper, so that truck could move this chipper. You didn't have to have the triaxle like we have now. So that truck would move the chipper. It's got a wet kit on it, at least it had a wet kit. I'm not sure if it does anymore or not, but it had a wet kit on it, so it haul low boy, it could do everything. And that truck, one day we were on a job, and it was beautiful popple chipper. I mean, it was a little small, but it was like gravy. So we're cutting in there. I'm running the old, whatever you call it, 648 John Deere, whatever they were, the John Deere, the Timberjack 640, the 660D, that's what it was, Timberjack, with the Deere motor in it and the little swap over deal they had going on. I was running that, and we had the 660C Timberjack skidder there too. And all we were doing was we were moving from one landing to another on the same piece of property. They were cutting out some different sections. And so I was at the new section. I parked my skidder there the night before. He went and got because I think we built the landing. We just made a little spot for the chipper off. You didn't have to have a big landing because it's all chipwood. So made a spot. I'm up at the new landing. The 660C is the old landing. And Carl come there with that old blue Kenworth and hooked up to the chipper. And it was about this time of year, it was winter out. And Carl pulled that chipper to the new landing, which seemed totally fine. But we had a predicament. And the predicament was, in that old 660D and the 660C and the 848, whatever it is, all the hybrid stuff, the throttle freezes up on them skidders. Now, every winter we were replacing throttle cables all the time because the cables would get water in them, and then when you get cold nights, it'd freeze, and you're just sitting at idle forever. And so we have to get new cables, and you let it warm up, and you go out in the woods and do a little bit of work with it, and then the thing could, you know, start to work after that. Well, I took off and I started to go kind of like across the road to the landing because I was parked on the opposite side. Just a two-track. And I go over there, and here come Carl over the hill. It was kind of a hill, and then it kind of come down to the landing a little bit. Carl come up over that hill and come down, and the skidder, I heard on the CB, that one, I don't know if I had a CB that worked or not, but that one, it's a long story, and it's still disputed to this day. I think he had his radio a little loud, that's what I think. And he couldn't hear Carl yelling and screaming on the CB and blowing his horns. I'm out in the two-track, and I'm like idle mode, putzing, and I can't, and I'm hitting that stupid throttle as hard as I can with my foot, trying to break the cable or something. And Carl's just zooming at me, and the skidder's pushing him. And he's got his brakes locked up. blowing the horns, and smashed right into the grapple of that skidder. It was a mess. And it took the radiator out, took the hood out. That was a bad, bad day. So then he jumped out of his skidder, and I was like, it wasn't pretty. That wasn't pretty at all. So then the thing was, you could hear his skidder radio, the AM FM, just a blaring in there from standing way outside of it. So he was jamming probably. He was jamming. So they made the phone call to Mike, and Mike wasn't impressed either. So we just pulled that truck up out of the road and had somebody else move the chipper in there, and then lowboyed that truck out of there. I'm not even sure what other truck we had that had a wet kit on it to lowboy that one out of there. But that was back in the day. Not a lot of people that were on that crew are even here anymore. One of them is, and that's the cutter that don't like to be videotaped. Yeah, he's still here. I get that question all the time. Do you still have the same cutter? Yep, he's still here. He's actually cutting for the other crew. So Gary's cutting for us. But the old blue Kenworth has been through it all. And that was, boy, 9 years ago probably. And that truck still hauls. It's more of a spare now. But we had it had a propane tank on it for a while, and she had a little extra juice to her, a little propane action to her for a while, and then we kind of gave up on that. But that truck's been a good truck. Always hauling that truck would be. So now it's more of a spare. Jimmy's truck today. Let me explain what's going on. So why is Jimmy driving that truck and not Jimmy driving the red Freightliner? Because I'll get like comments like, well, I was like, your Freightliner's broke down. And so Jimmy's in that truck because they needed to haul. They hauled the 545 out today to the other crew, and that's got tire chains on it. I know. That's it. And so they hauled that out to the other job. Jimmy's truck's got a wet kit on it, so they used Jimmy's truck because the other blue truck is hauling. Every trailer is like a different size, even the 53 footers. Some of them are original boxes, like a Great Dane. Some of them are custom made boxes, which are all built. And there's a couple custom made ones that are bigger. The boxes are slightly bigger than like a normal box trailer. So we want to keep those big vans on the road, the biggest ones we got, hauling chips, and keep the smaller ones, maybe let them sit while the lowboys get moved. So the biggest one is hooked up to the number 24, the Jeff Gordon truck. So the biggest one's hooked up to that one, so he's hauling chips with it. Jimmy's truck is another one with a wet kit. So that's why they used Jimmy's truck today to move it. The actual log truck driver, I think, moved it out there. And then today Jimmy's hauling with the blue Kenworth. So you're constantly swapping out trucks and trailers, and certain trucks can't be hooked to certain trailers, height stuff, and all kinds of stuff like that. So we're constantly kind of moving stuff around. But now that we've kind of switched to the Freightliner, when we jumped into that with the Detroits in them, we dove into it, and they have been really, really good. A lot of people ask why we went with Detroit. Well, Detroit redesigned their whole motor for the new emission stuff, and no one else kind of did at the time. So Mike went with it with one truck, tried it out, and that's the red truck. We've had that for years now, and now we've kind of just swapped over to a bunch more, and we all use the same Detroits in them, and those have treated us really well. Really happy with those. So yes, the tire chains are on the 545, head to their job, and we'll see how things go. They might bring some tire chains over here to put on the original 535. We'll see what happens. I mean, and if I do it, we're going to make like a 10-part series on doing it, because that's the most asked question on this channel by far, is, why don't you guys run tire chains? period. It's like, apparent where some of you live and you're logging around there, they run tire chains 24/7, 365. Okay. And I mean, I go up into Canada fishing in the spring or in the summer every year, and all those skidders up there have tire chains on all 4 tires year round, and they're in nasty terrain with nasty rocks and all kinds of stuff. We're on like flatter ground. This has actually got a couple hills in it, but it's not really that bad. So we don't put them on unless we absolutely have to. That's kind of how we do it around here. And I know I'll get a, that's like the most, why don't you do it? Why don't you do it? We just don't. We don't put them on unless we have to. So that's how it goes. But yeah, if we bring it out here, we'll make like a huge deal, like chipper guys putting tire chains on. And it's going to be like, I mean, you guys like ask that. Not a lot of the, I mean, every now and then you'll get new people that come along. And when we started the channel, it was like just, why don't you have tire chains on? So, I don't know. But they put them on the 545. That come when we bought that skidder with a whole set of bear claws with it. So they actually put, we just run them on, usually on the fronts, which is another disputed thing. We'll run the tire chains just on the front axle, and it works out good for us and where we live and everything like that. So that's what kind of what we do. Tire chains. The old blue Kenworth. Yep. That blue Kenworth, the first week I was here, like I said, we got like a foot of snow. I started on a Monday. We got a foot of snow like Sunday night. I show up to work, jump in the old 480 skidder, timberjack, the 3-speed. I got up in there and put the throttle down, and it wouldn't go nowhere. And so I had to get back out and go ask the dude, like, hey, it won't move. And he's like, yes, it will. And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, push it all the way to the floor. If you didn't have it all the way to the floor, it wouldn't move. If you had a half throttle, it wouldn't move. If you had it all the way to the floor, then she'd get up and go a little bit. But then we actually had tire chains delivered to that job from China, and they were junk. And they got used that winter, and they broke into pieces all the time. They threw them behind the shop. They tried to bring them out like the next year, and we're like, we're not even messing with these because they break into pieces. They were junk tire chains. So now we got some decent ones. And we even got some decent ones for the 30.5 tires. Some Babicks we're running that are decent. I mean, they're not as good as the bear claws and stuff, but they're decent tire chains for what we need them for. So the old blue Kenworth, she's been around for a while, and she's hauled a lot of chips up to the mill. So thanks for watching. Just keep rolling.